Welcome to the final TELedvisors webinar for the year. Today we're looking at reflective learning with ePortfolios, and we have three amazing presenters with us today who were also at the ePortfolios Australia Forum back in September. I'll hand over now to our MC, Chia Adachi.
So let's get started with the first speaker. While I bring the slides for Emma, and I'll introduce Emma. So she is a senior lecturer in the School of Nursing at Otago Polytechnic, New Zealand. She's a teacher of professional nursing and research, as well as supervising students in clinical practice. Her research interests include ePortfolios, nursing informatics, sustainability, and positive learning environments. Emma has a variety of nursing experience, predominantly in pediatric nursing, in both inpatient and community settings. Over to you, Emma.
Thank you. And I understand there's quite a bit of background noise. So I'm just going to give everyone a wave, and then I'm going to turn my camera off so that it just helps with the Wi-Fi. And yeah, sorry about the background noise. I'm actually at a conference at the moment, and session's gone back in, and so I thought I'd found a quiet spot, but turns out it's probably not so quiet. So hopefully you can all hear me okay anyway. And apologies, I will leave after my session once the questions have gone through, but I look forward to hearing what the other people have to say after with the recording that'll come through afterwards, if that's okay. So just use the arrow. Yep. So thank you for the invitation to discuss my experiences of working with ePortfolios. I am in the School of Nursing at Otago Polytechnic, which is in Dunedin, New Zealand. So if you look at that wee diagram there, Dunedin's very near the bottom, and I'm not sure if I can find where's the pointer. I don't know if you can see my pointer, but Dunedin's there, and currently I'm at a conference which is up here in Rotorua. So lucky I can get around a little bit, which is pretty cool. So we commenced using ePortfolios in 2015 after extensive scoping and investigations into a number of different platforms, and we chose a platform called Pathbright, which is owned by the Cengage publishing company, which is has quite a significant presence in the US, not so much in Australia or New Zealand at the moment. Pathbright predominantly has two parts to it: a space for personal portfolios and a course or institutional version, and it's mainly the institutional version that we use. So on the left-hand side of your screen is a screenshot from the front page of it's actually from one of my personal portfolios. I've got my wee nursing badge there. And on the right is a screenshot from the front page of a course portfolio. So they look quite different, and they're set up quite differently. So we have 7 clinical courses in our Bachelor of Nursing, and 1 portfolio is produced per clinical course. Therefore, at the end of their degree, the students will have 7 course portfolios. Once the students are unenrolled from a clinical course, the portfolio becomes a personal portfolio. Therefore, teachers no longer have any access to it, and students can have full control over the design and the layout. And they can also add and remove things and basically do whatever they like with it. The course portfolios are generally very prescriptive, and I'm going to talk mainly about course portfolios. For this part, it varies between courses, but generally we ask the students to complete a number of pieces of work to complement their clinical placement, such as glossaries, case studies, health and safety assessments. We ask them to set objectives, and we complete a formative and summative assessment on their clinical placement. We also ask them to complete a reflection using a reflective framework and reflect on their objectives and reflect and self-evaluate the learning outcomes for the paper. So nursing has long been a very reflective profession, and the students are well used to the concept, the terminology, and the practice of reflecting. So the question for today is about whether or not it's about reflective learning with ePortfolios, and whether or not ePortfolios can actually enable students to be more reflective. So at present, students reflect in their portfolio, and it's usually in the form of a Word document that's been uploaded. But it's not the ePortfolio that has enabled them to do that, it's the instruction from the teacher. Therefore, in this capacity, and for many of our students, they view the portfolio purely as a repository for their work, rather than anything more than this. And I'm going to talk more about that later. When we implemented the ePortfolios a few years ago now, we did an evaluative research project alongside this, which I won't go into detail today, but it is being published in the International Journal of ePortfolios in 2018. There was a bit of evidence in these results which led us to the conclusion that the portfolio did in fact enhance reflective capabilities, and it was more than just that reflection that they wrote on the Word document that they uploaded, but there was more reflective capabilities within the actual platform. In this project, we asked the students if they felt that the ePortfolio made them reflect more on what they had learned, more than what they normally would have. The mean for this was 3.4 out of 5, so we can confidently say that the ePortfolio did indeed help them to reflect. When we asked the question, what was the best thing about the ePortfolio platform as an open-ended question in the quantitative survey, a number of students commented that being able to reflect back on their work was a great thing. And this was evidenced in the focus groups as well, where many students mentioned reflecting in their discussions. You can go back and look at things and reflect on things. We're able to create more portfolios if we just want to write a whole bunch of reflections on assessments or something that has happened, then that function is there. For the teachers, we asked the ePortfolio we asked questions as well about reflection, and they said that the ePortfolio assessment made it easier for me to promote reflective practice among the students. So from that research, we were able to say that the ePortfolio platform itself did help them to reflect a bit more than what they normally would have with a paper-based portfolio. Now, the platform that we use does have a number of features that encourage reflection, and a total kind of disclaimer time, we aren't actually using these features, but we intend to next year. It was a bit of like not introducing too much too soon to our clinical lecturers because they felt quite overwhelmed, but we're looking at introducing these features next year. And so, for example, this box on the left pops up for the student when they submit a piece of work, an opportunity to reflect on an individual piece of work that they put in. So as you can see from the slide, they can give themselves a star rating, and then they can also put a little bit of dialogue in there as well, and then they submit that. Then the teacher sees this when they come to view the student's work, and they can immediately see what the student thought about the work that they submitted. So if you see up the top there, you've got Jean's reflection. So I can immediately, as a teacher, I can see she's given herself 4 stars for this piece of work. And that, as a teaching staff, gives me a bit of an idea as to what they think of the piece of work that they've submitted, whether or not they think they could have made a bit more effort, or whether or not they think that they've just done an amazing piece of work. And having that self-reflective capability within assessments is really insightful for students. There's also this feature as well, and this is the top box is they're prompted to complete this top box at the very beginning of their course. And as you can see, it says, fast forward to the due date, how proud do you think you'll feel about your finished work? And then they can kind of slide that up and down, and it gives them a little bit of, they might be a bit nervous going into the placement. They might be a bit worried about how they're going to complete their clinical portfolio. They may have another number of other commitments, personal commitments at the same time, that they know that placement's going to happen and feel that they're not going to be able to put much effort in. So it's just a little bit of a reflective piece for them there. And then the bottom box appears in the marking rubric, and the student is prompted to complete this once they have submitted all their pieces of work. And once again, it's a wee slidey scale, and they can put some comments there about now that now that they've finished the course, how do they think they feel about it, and what past experiences do they feel have impacted on their ability to complete this work. So the lecturer sees this when they come to marking the rubric, which, as you can see, isn't a real rubric, and when they come to grade the student's work, and so they get a picture there of what's been going on for the student at the time. Next slide, somehow. Oh, there we go. So we're also encouraging students to complete an ongoing personal portfolio for the 3 years of their bachelor degree. So in this portfolio, which they're introduced to in a tutorial in year 1, and they're encouraged to commence this in year 1, they are encouraged to work on this throughout the 3 years of their degree. And we've just implemented this at the beginning of this year, but we're going to be giving them prompts right throughout their 3 years to remember about their ePortfolio and to create that journey for themselves over the 3 years. Prompts, they're encouraged to share it with the lecturer, and potentially with an employer. So at the moment, it's not linked to any assessment, and it's not linked to the new graduate job applications, but we're hoping to change that in the future. We want this to be a meaningful portfolio for the students, a portfolio that truly reflects their journey of becoming a registered nurse, and can showcase not only the knowledge and skills that they've learned over the time of being in the Bachelor of Nursing program, but also some of the personal attributes that they're going to bring to the role, because often that's the point of difference that the employer looks at. They might look at their volunteer work, what part-time work they've had, what other professional development they've gone on their own accord to go and do. So it gives them a space to combine their personal experiences and their student learning experience into one personal portfolio that can be meaningful for them. It's reflective in nature, as it encourages the students to be reflective throughout their 3 years. So, for example, a student could put something into this portfolio in year 1, and I've done a video and some, a PDF and a flowchart and all that kind of stuff with how I encourage them to build this personal portfolio, because it is personal. I have no control over. I can't set it up like a course portfolio. So I have to give them kind of a bit of instruction as to how I'd suggest that they would set it up. And I've done that so that it's very much congruent with the portfolio that they may complete once they're a registered nurse and they go out into clinical practice and have to complete a clinical portfolio.
Oh, Emma, we seem to have lost Emma. Perhaps a connection issue.
Am I back? I think I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back. Cool. I'm not sure what happened. So I've lost my train of thought now. So they might upload a piece of work in year 1 thinking it's fantastic, it's great, I'm going to be an awesome nurse, this is fantastic. And then come to 30, they may look back on that piece and go, oh, actually, I don't really think that fits you anymore. I've actually grown quite a bit since that. And I'm going to reflect on that piece of work and write this about how I've changed now and how my practice has changed now because of the learning I've had since I wrote that piece. So it encourages them to reflect and look back on the work that they've done. Next slide. Here we go. So in conclusion, I think that there is potential for ePortfolios to be very reflective. I've gone too far. To be very reflective tools, and it depends on whether the platform allows you to do so and whether or not your course is designed to encourage your students to reflect. And in the future, we would like students to reflect on their own accord, use the reflective functions available in the platform, and also for students to use something other than words, such as a video or even voice recording, to evidence their reflective capabilities. I've challenged the students to do this, but as far as I'm aware, no one has actually gone there yet, and they've all just written it up in a Word document. I'm quite surprised about that, but I'll keep challenging them. We also want the students to use the personal portfolio feature more to evidence their journey, and we hope to evaluate this in the future once the students have been using it for a few years. I have had students share their personal portfolios with me that they've started creating, so there are students out there doing it. And I actually hope to tag it to an assessment in the future as well, but I'm getting a bit of blocking with that one. Overall, we want their portfolios to be a truly reflective experience and not a repository, and which is the real big mind shift that we're having to work towards now. And it involves a mind shift for students, and it also involves a mind shift for some staff. So I will finish with that. So thank you very much, and I'm just going to answer the questions if I can find where they are. So if I go to I'm opening the purple thing. How do I questions?
Yeah, thanks, Emma. We had a couple of questions in the chat, and we do have.
Yes, I can see them now. Yep. So one question was, could you make it a specific requirement to reflect? Yeah. Well, we could, but we don't want to. We don't want to, so for some students, writing things is actually, especially when it's a reflection, because reflections can often be very personal, and we don't want to be too restrictive with what format they should reflect in. And students do feel more comfortable writing a reflection, but we try to let the students know that, if you feel more comfortable verbalising it, then please do so. We do encourage a number of reflection models, and we use primarily use one called Stevenson's, which isn't very well known, but it kind of is in the nursing world. But the main reflection model that people use is Gibbs, and that's a very common one.
There's another question from Kate earlier on.
I think that's probably just been somewhat answered, but it'd be good to expand on that, because that's what I was thinking. Yeah, you mentioned that students were already used to reflecting and using ePortfolios, and so I was wondering, how did you kind of orient the students to that earlier on? Just, I guess, is that kind of a course-wide sort of program, and you've just mentioned Gibbs, so I imagine some of that is kind of part of that introduction.
Yeah, so we do quite a bit of, kind of didactic teaching with regards to reflection and reflective frameworks in our theory for practice paper, and also in our professional nursing paper. So they bring it in first year, and mainly in professional nursing, and where there is actually, a tutorial and a lecture that says this is what reflection is, this is some different reflection models, this is how you do it, this is why you do it, etc. So very much kind of like instructor telling the students about reflection and what reflection is. So they get that, and then when they go on clinical placement in year one, later in that year, then they get an opportunity to reflect. And once again, in second year, we do the same. We give a recap lecture on reflection, because once they've had the opportunity at the end of year one to kind of put it into practice, they actually need some content again about what reflection is and what it means. And because they've had an experience, then they can kind of tag it a little bit more to that experience that they've had. So we do kind of do a little bit more teaching about what reflection is, and give them some more exposure to other reflection models. So we talk about it a lot. It comes up a lot in our terminology with nursing care, so it just kind of comes a lot up just in our regular talking. Someone asked a question, what is the ePortfolio being compared to? Journal entries, discussion board entries, reflective papers? I suppose it's not really being compared to anything at the moment. It's being graded by the lecturer. Let me know if I've gone off the wrong track with that, but I can just see there's some other questions that have come up. No.
No,
Am I missing questions?
Yeah, all the questions from the chat. Thank you, Emma. I might actually keep moving things along, because the time is limited for the other presenters as well. But thank you very much, Emma, for presenting your really interesting work. If everyone can join me in thanking Emma in a chat with the applause, I'll bring up the next slides for Heather.
Thanks, everyone. I like all the wee clappies. Thank you very much. And if anyone's got any further questions, don't hesitate to get in touch with me. I'd be really keen to connect with anyone who wants to connect further. So thank you.